redeemed no more to die and to say goodbye. He gave me a song, a wonderful song. And some of these days in that fair land, sing with a chorus friend. He gave me a song, a wonderful song. He gave me a song to sing about.
Try to preempt you there, but I've got an extra blood flowing. It really makes me eager now. What a joy to be here. I always consider it a tremendous privilege. I want to thank the elders for the opportunity to speak here always, and we enjoy it's a pumper-upper when Sherry and I leave. We feel so good and we're thankful. Just looking at Randall several years ago, we had such a great time in Africa. Some of those young men that you taught are now leaders. One has already planted a church, and we've got about 40 orphans there that we help feed, and so I appreciate what you did. You know, we wouldn't have been connected with you without Merle and Shirley. Knowing them from my wife and I from our early 20s, you know, it's wonderful to have people that encourage you when you're so young, and I'm sure we've all got our stories, but for us, Merle and Shirley have been part of that equation in our life, and any time during those years that I have been with them and spoke with them and been with them, it's always been a tremendous blessing, and I thank them, and they're the ones that connected us with you all, which provided us another wonderful church family to get to know and to get to love. And so we're so thankful we were here. Ladies, I apologize to you who are knitting baby caps, because there was a slide I showed of my son sitting with two Zimbabwean children, and the little girl had a cap on there that was crocheted by one of the ladies here. And so I want to thank you all so much, and I believe we've got about 150 more that we're going to be shipping over there, and it's needed. So thank you all so much for that. It's wonderful. Well, her name is Bilikis. She is from the country of Nigeria, and she was given a wonderful privilege that most Africans do not get. She got a chance to study at MIT, and she did really well. She got her master's in business administration, and constantly through the years she was studying at MIT, she was thinking about how she could help her family back in Nigeria. And one of the things that she thought about was, you know, if I could start a company or a business, you know, when I graduate, that would be great. And there was opportunities provided her because she had done so well. Or to just connect with a corporation. She thought that would be great. She thought either track she could help her family in Nigeria. But she noticed one thing while she was here. She noticed trash. She noticed what we do with our trash. In Florence, Alabama, you know, we will have a couple of containers that we put out, and one is blue. And she noticed how we recycle here in America, and that really grabbed her. She thought, you know, she thought about Lagos. Lagos, the city that she grew up in, is a huge city of 21 million people. And Lagos, well, she put it this way, 60% of the trash is never collected. Can you imagine? So she had a new way of seeing things. She says, I believe they are making money here through recycling. Why couldn't I do that back in Lagos? And so she said, no, I'm not going to stay in America, and I'm going to head on home. And she started WeCyclers. You can you know, Google her and see what they've accomplished. It's quite something. She began to formulate a plan, find out how much it would take to get this company up and running, and to educate the people, because when she got there, you know, she was all pumped and excited, and she got pushback. You know, how's garbage valuable to me? And she knew she had to start a big re-education program too. She did some stats, and this is what she said. Lagos generates 735,000 tons of plastic each year. That is worth about 300 million to waste collectors who then sell to recyclers. And so she began. And she would go to people's houses and she would give them money for their plastic bottles. And they couldn't believe it. Now she collects 40 tons every month. And it has changed her life. It changed the life of Lagos, Nigeria. I read this quote: "This young woman who traveled far from home is changing the way people of Lagos look at garbage, rubbish, or trash. The lost money once left lying in the street is being recycled and reclaimed. What was once trash is now seen as treasure." Jesus tells a story in this one similar strand of a person that leaves to go to a far country just like Biliquis. His situation is somewhat different because with arrogance, and I say little respectful, went to his father and said, "I would like my future inheritance." And his father gave it to him. And he left with that treasure. Like Biliquis, the young man travels far from home. But he doesn't, when he gets to his destination, he doesn't decide, well, I'm going to enroll in a MIT and see if I can use this treasure to be a springboard where I can do so much more than what my dad has done. Or maybe I could start my own business here and get things going and even end up employing more people than even my dad does at home. The King James Version says that he squandered the money. The word that it uses is riotous. The New King James Version says prodigal living, and the NLT, or New Living Translation, says wild living. He just took that treasure and bang, he just trashed it. And he basically just partied. You know, if you become a kegger, you'll end up a beggar. And I've seen it many times. You trash and you live your life that way, you are going to find yourself at the bottom. And after some time in his new home, he too finds himself looking at trash. And where Biliquis saw opportunity, this boy saw how his life had hit rock bottom. Listen to the passage that we are familiar with. It says, "About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. And he persuaded a local farmer to hire him to feed his pigs. And the boy became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything." Have you ever been hungry? To be honest with you, I'd be surprised if there was anyone here to put up their hand. I grew up in Africa and I've never been hungry. I had wonderful Christian parents. We might not have had everything that we wanted. We had a lot that we wanted. But my dad always made sure, my mom, that we had food to eat every day. So I can tell you I've never been hungry. But I see people when I'm in Africa hungry all the time. You know, vivid within my mind is three little kids. They were in our line where we were feeding them. And they all got a full plate of food. And I mean, they ate every bit. When they brought that plate back, it was clean, and they wanted more. And we said we didn't have any more except for the burnt rice at the bottom of the pot. And they just went for it, scraped it up, and ate it all. They said they hadn't eaten for 2 days. And so we followed them back to their village. And we found out that they were kept by their grandmother. The parents had died of AIDS. And the grandmother hadn't had anything to eat either. And of course, yes, we got them food and that. But I mean, we see that. Jesus says that it was then that this young man came to himself. Why do I bring that up? Hold on a minute, came to himself. He was never hungry growing up. I doubt it. He came from a privileged position. He's hungry because he brought it on himself. He had never been hungry before. He had never experienced the situation before. He had turned the dad's treasure into trash, and it was time to turn his life around, and he decides to. You hear the story about about the two beggars sitting across from a rather well-to-do hotel, you know, maybe a 4 or 5 star. And here comes this relatively young man in his 40s walking out of the beautiful brass and glass doors, and as he descends the steps, you can tell that he's in an awesome suit, you know, probably $1,000 job. And the limo drives up, and the chauffeur gets out and opens the door for him, and he gets in. And as the car drives away, one beggar says to the other, "There goes I, but for me." Choices that we make. He devises a plan, this guy. He prepares his speech. He's humble. There's no arrogance here. He's not trying to work a scheme here. He's planning to come to his father on bended knee, as it were, and say, "Just give me a job, Dad. I have blown it." And I am glad that this is not the end of the story for this guy, you know. Something's going to happen. What we see here in the story is God the recycler, the redeemer. When the boy is still far from home, his dad sees him off in the distance. Listen, we all make mistakes. We all blow it at times. Some of our mistakes are worse than others because of our wrong choices. One of the ancient prophets compared us to wayward animals when he said, "We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way. I'm a relational failure. I'm a workaholic. I'm an addict." Identity always precedes behavior. And God says, "Come." In this story, that's what he's saying. God says, "Come." Because this is where you need to belong. And when the boy is still far from home at the distance, the father, who's a patriarch and a leader of a community, sheds all of that status. I mean, in the sense of show, and just he recognizes that gate man, and he is gone. So your daughter is pregnant, and the guy wants nothing more to do with her because he's basically got what he wanted. And what she thought was a relationship was just lust. And she wants to come home so she can start a life anew. Will you let her? Your son comes to you with tears and says, "No, I'm serious now. I want to stop drugs. Mom and Dad, I need your help to go to rehab. I don't have any money, but I really need your help, and I'm willing to be proactive. Will you?" I want you to know that I'm not speaking from some created example. I'm speaking from personal experience. The son I showed you at the beginning, first session, he is 11 years sober. There was a time that I saw him broken and crying and just overwhelmed by drugs and alcohol, and had to grab him. And you know, when I say grab him, if I wasn't a Christian, the grab would mean different. Because I believe I could still take him. But to grab him and hug him and say, "Let's go, son." Because the only choice I have is to love him. Because he had reached, he says to me, "Dad, I need help." This is what this father does. Dad doesn't want to do it. The son says, "Okay, I've got this all prepared, Dad. Let me just pull this out and let me read you my speech." You know? And Dad says, "Not interested in your speech. Would somebody please put the robe, get the ring, get the sandals, and kill that calf, man? My son has come home. The treasure has returned." Treasure. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 16 says, "I will dwell in them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people." Relationship changes when we give ourselves, when we come back to God. Relationship changes, and we adopt His itinerary and His goals. We adopt that, and things begin to change. We who are the faithful also join in recycling. Can I say that? Treasure, not trash. And disciples of Jesus join in recycling. All of us that are sitting here, and if you're sitting with a smile on your face after you took the Lord's Supper because you have been redeemed, that's right, you've been redeemed to become a recycler, to help this in this ministry. There is a person here that throws a negative shadow on the homecoming, because the older brother still sees his brother that left as trash and not treasure. In Luke chapter 15, verse 25, meanwhile the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. Your brother is back, he was told. And your brother was killed, and your father has killed the calf we were fattening and has prepared a great feast. We are celebrating because of his safe return. And the Bible says the older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. And while the bulk of the story is talking about this brother that left for a far country and comes back, I wonder if this is not the major focus, because he's not sharing the story with unknown people. Jesus is sharing the story with the Pharisees and the legal experts and the older brothers and all those that said, are you actually going to go to Zacchaeus' house? Jesus tells the story not only so sinners can know their value in the eyes of God, but also to call those who have been recycled to become recyclers. I don't know if you watch the Olympics, it's been a while now. But when I reached Africa, one of the guys in South Africa I know very well, and we both love sports, said to me, he says, Dorian, have you heard about Wade van Niekerk? And I said, no. He says, we might not get any medals at the Olympics, talking about South Africa, but he says, I believe we're going to get a gold medal out of Wade van Niekerk. And he runs the 400 meters hurdles. And what is amazing about him is he won the gold medal, but he broke Michael Johnson's 17-year-old 400-meter record. Do you know how, to break a record held 17 years in track and field, that's almost unheard of. And so he breaks the tape. It's a world record. He's got a gold medal. There's a lady, her name is Ans Botha. She's in her 70s. She's actually 74 years old, and she's standing up, and if you took a glance at her, you'd say, that must be a relative, a grandmother, or whatever. And she walks down the steps, and she gets to the bottom, and she tries to cross the track to go hug him, and the Olympic officials stop her, and she says, no, I'm his trainer. And they just, no, that's crazy, and they get the South African officials, and the South African officials say, no, she is his trainer. He came to her when she was 70 years old, and he says, I need help. And she says, I want you to know I am a no-nonsense coach. And she trained him for 4 years. She is still the head track and field coach at one of the universities in South Africa, and she's 74. What's my point for that story? My point is, I look over this crowd here today, and we're all ages, different generations, and Jesus calls all of us to be recyclers and to join in his work of redemption. And it starts, for many of us, it might start in your own family, physical family, and spread outward. And let a community know that that's our business, and that's what we're about. And we extend this invitation, as we always do, to come to Jesus. Won't you come as we stand and sing?
When we walk with the Lord in the light of his word,